So when you look at the function of this, and if you're doing with like a post-operative shoulder, of course you got to deal with the post-operative things and escort that tissue through the healing process over the first probably month, at least 4 weeks. But even then after that, and I would encourage you with all non-operative shoulder conditions, really check the thoracic spine first. So it's really critical that we check this thoracic spine. And the simplest way to do that is we look at thoracic rotation. So we do this through our pull-proof testing that we teach, is to do a quadruped thoracic rotation test and see how much does it move. And if the thoracic spine is limited in rotation, it's probably limited in extension as well. Both those are going to affect the scapula quite a bit. We are not going to be able to get this so sacred scapular depression that we speak of. You know, I can't talk to a clinician or even a strength coach who doesn't talk about scapular depression. But I at the same time, in doing that, I don't really think they understand what they're saying. If the scapula is going to be depressed, you better have the thoracic spine out of the way so it can actually do the movement, right? And I think we miss that often. So let's make sure the thoracic spine moves well. If it does, my experience has been the scapula will do just fine, and it will do its job well. So thoracic spine move well, and then really stabilize that glenohumeral joint. So to do that stability part of the glenohumeral joint, it goes back to some things to really value. Obviously, you got to build some foundational strength here. So we do a lot of holds in this scenario, and I think this is important foundationally to develop. So we believe in A's, Y's, T's, W's, but we really believe in holding them for periods of time. So body weight work, long holds, 30 to 60 seconds. Developing the endurance of these rotator cuff tissues to really stabilize and lock it in is critical. I like using some tubing drills as well. Same idea. Maybe a little bit. You start with tubing, you can add a little bit more speed of contraction, so we can get a little bit more of a faster concentric, but then still hold the isometric position for a few seconds, and then back out of it. And that'd be a similar thing, just going with basically A's, T's, and external rotation with that. We usually do an uppercut movement or a shoulder fly as well. So we do some varieties there that to really kind of develop rotator cuff control and a bit of endurance of the tissue.
In both with the armbar and the get up, these are slow moves. You know, an armbar for 30 seconds is 60 seconds. A get up done really slow takes 60 seconds. Could go back to some good old fashioned I's, Y's, and T's. Hold it for a long period of time. This is stabilizing tissue. It's meant to do its job in a stamina fashion.
Holding something overhead, same thing. Probably one of the most valuable things you could possibly do with someone with an upper extremity issue, or at least rehabbing process, is to get them to hold something fully overhead in a prolonged fashion. Like something that's going to give back to their life in an injury preventative way, and also probably a quality of life way for recreation, is to have them manage a certain level of load overhead. Like for any recreational athlete, or actually for any overhead athlete that I would work with, it's you need to be able to hold at least a third, maybe if you're elite, half your body weight in one hand overhead for at least 60 seconds.
What does everybody complain about when they come in? It's like, well, it pinches when I go like this. When I raise my arm, it pinches here. This is like that sign, the piece you're always going back to. You're always looking at. It's like your reevaluation, retesting all the time. Well, does it pinch overhead again? I mean, that's the missing piece for them. And whether it's the old person picking up their grandkid or grabbing the cup out, or the person throwing 90 miles an hour, or snatching a barbell over their head, whatever it is, it probably does come back to that to some degree.
And then bring it back down that, before you get excited to implement an overhead carry in your next treatment day, but like you have to establish that full range of motion. You have to establish that long duration hold with a very simple open chain exercise. And you start thinking about some of these closed chain options, or some of these kettlebell oriented drills to build towards something like that. And then there is quite a magical result that you get once you go through that process correctly.
Yeah, it's really important that we have this foundation, where you have these prone isos that we really like to use. We use the tubing exercises to develop more strength, endurance, and then move into these armbar categories, as well as our Turkish get up stuff. And it might just be a partial get up. Maybe it's just a step 1 through 3 for the shoulder, depending on the age of the person. But we're doing this with people that are 60 years old, people that are 20 years old, people that are 15 years old. They do have to have an interest and a focus, I would say, on the get up or on some of these kettlebell movements, that they actually want to master the movement. Yeah. So be sensitive to that. But I think if you could establish that as a clinician working with you, or a coach working with your client, that's valuable. Once you establish those abilities to do the basics, arm bars, and the first few stages of the get up, then that really opens up the carry series, I think, for people, where you could do either a suitcase carry or a farmer's carry if you want to do single or double arm. You could do, of course, a racked carry or bottoms up rack carry is a phenomenal tool for even. I mean, I've had a 90-year-old do bottoms up rack carry. We did a double arm just to kind of give her some core control and get her posture up. but certainly a single arm bottoms up rack carry is a great option for.
How heavy was that? Was that 24 kilos? What was
Yeah,
that?
it was a 24, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I made her buy a 15-pound kettlebell, and she hated me for it, but her kids loved me for it, and she used the damn thing, and she's doing well. She's still independently living at like 96 years old. So that's the key there, you know. But the so getting them to do the carry series is great, and then eventually, you know, we talked about some things here like snatch and some overhead things, and certainly you want to go overhead carry, then we want to go to an overhead press, always in a single arm fashion. And then if snatching is appropriate, then it's certainly a conversation to be had. I think that if Evan concluded his story, he would probably come back to the overhead carry, overhead press, and then eventually snatching, which led to that stability gain. But not until he earned all of those other levels in between.
Yeah, exactly.